Now observe very clearly here what I am writing. In client server, applications, there are two types of responses. Okay, now how many types of responses? There are two types of responses. What are the two types of responses? Is nothing but the first one is a static response. Okay, now what is the first one here? Tell me. Static response. Next after that, the second one is a dynamic response. Okay, now the first one is a static response and the second one is what, sir? Dynamic response. Okay, now we'll go through that first one, that is nothing but static response. Okay, now observe very clearly here what I am saying. Static response. What is a static response? Okay, now observe very clearly here. Static response is a response. Static response is a response. Okay, now generated by the server. Okay, now static response is a response generated by the server side application. Okay, now static response is a response generated by the server side application as a common response. Okay, now as a common response for every request. Okay, now common response for every request of the same resource. Okay, now of the what, sir? Same resource. Okay, now this is the stuff. Observe very clearly what I am saying. First of all, in client server application there are two types of responses. The first one is a static response. The second one is what? Dynamic response. The static response is nothing but is a response generated by the server side application as a common response. As a common response for every request to the same resource. Okay, now if you want here, everyone you guys having laptops, no. After that here you can try once. Okay, now observe very clearly here what I am saying. Generating a login page for every user. Generating a login page for every user when they access. Okay, now when they access www.facebook.login. Okay, now www.facebook.login. Okay, now while clicking on that link, okay, now while clicking on this link, everyone will get same login page or not, sir? Everyone open your laptops later, you click on the www.facebook.login. Everyone will get same web page only, same login page only. Say yes or no? This is a static response or not, sir? Response, this static response or not? Everyone is getting same response only. So here it is a static response. Okay, now is a static response. Okay, now what I am saying, observe very clearly here. Generating a login page for every user when they access www.facebook.login. Okay, now this is a static response. Okay, now clear what I am saying here? Response, sir. Okay, next after that here we'll go through that second one. What is the second one here? Dynamic response. Okay, now static response is completed. Now we'll go to the second one. What is that? Dynamic response. Okay, now observe very clearly. Now we'll go to the dynamic response. What is that? Dynamic response is nothing but dynamic response is the response generated by the what, sir? Server. Here also generated by the server only. Okay, now static response is a response generated by the server side application. Here also dynamic response is a response generated by server side application as an. Okay, now after that the difference observe very clearly. Here as a common response, but here tell me as an individual individual different response. Okay na, individual different response, individual difference response for every user, every user request of the same resource. Okay, the request of the same resource. Okay, are you able to understand what I am saying here? Dynamic response is the response generated by the server side application as an individual different response for every user request of the same resource. Okay, are you able to understand what I am saying here? Here also I'll give you one example, try to understand that. Okay, now in Facebook login page. Okay, now in Facebook login page, if we enter, okay, if we enter username and password, if you enter username and password, and if we enter submit button, okay, now if we enter submit request, this is the perfect way. Okay, now if you enter the submit request to the Facebook, if we enter submit request to the Facebook, then the Facebook application generate user respective, okay na, user respective profile page. Okay na, user respective profile page as a response. Okay na, as response. Okay now, observe very clearly what I am writing here. In Facebook login page, if we enter username and password, and if we enter submit request, otherwise clicking on that submit button to the Facebook, then the Facebook application generate user respective profile page. Say yes or no? For example, I am open that one Facebook login page. I have entered the username, password, and clicking on that submit button. What we will get? My profile page will open or not? Otherwise, Samantha profile page is open. Okay, no. I have entered my details, so that's why I'll get my data. If you click on that your like a username, password also, what you will get? My profile you will get? No, your data you will get. Say yes or no, sir? So this is the each and every person will get different response or not? Say yes or no? This is a dynamic response. Okay, now this is what, sir? Dynamic response. Okay, are you able to what I am saying? Understanding, sir? Okay, now what is the static response and what is the dynamic response? For every user gets the same response, that is a static response. For every user get the individual or separate response, that is the dynamic response. Okay, now clear what I am saying, sir? Okay, now this is the stuff. Okay, next after that, okay, what is response? We got it. What is the static response? What is the dynamic response? Everything we got it. Okay, now we are sending the request also. We know how we are sending is nothing but we are searching in browser. Okay, now that is nothing but what, sir? Request. Okay, now we'll go through that. The next step, the important concept, that is nothing but servlets. Okay, done. Now observe very clearly what is a servlet. Okay, now what is a servlet? And everything we will discuss. Okay, if it is possible today only we will install one server also. Okay, now observe very clearly here what I am saying. A servlet is a Java class. Okay, now servlet is a Java class. Okay, now that runs on a web server. Okay, now that runs on a where, sir? Web server. That runs on a web server and process the client request. Okay, in a servlet is a Java class that runs on a web server and process the client request to the produce dynamic responses. Okay, now to produce dynamic responses. Okay, what I am saying, are you able to understand, sir? Here observe very clearly, servlet is a class. Okay, now servlet is a Java class. Servlet is a Java class that runs on a web server and process the client request to produce the dynamic response. Okay, now that means done. Observe, sir, very clearly here. I'll give you another one definition if you want. Okay, now observe very clearly here what I am writing. Servlet. Okay, now servlets are server side Java program. Okay na, servlets are server side Java programs, okay na, used to handle the client request, okay na, used to handle what, sir? Client request, okay na. Servlets is a server side Java programs used to handle the client's request and generate the dynamic web responses, okay na, dynamic web responses. This is the story. Okay, are you able to understand what I am saying here? Okay na. So servlets are the server side Java program, okay na, used to handle the client's request and generate the dynamic web responses. Already I said, sir, servlet is what is servlet? Servlet is a programming language. No, servlet is a technology, okay na. Servlet is what, sir? Technology, okay na. Perfectly I am saying servlets and JSPs comes under the web technology. Say yes or no? By using servlets and JSP we can create what? Web pages, no, web applications, okay now we can develop what, sir? Web applications. If you want to develop, what we required? JSP and servlets. So that's why JSP and servlets is also known as web technologies. But nowadays no one using this servlets and JSPs. These are the outdated concepts, okay now. That is the stuff. Okay, observe very clearly here what I am saying, okay now. Here servlets is a server side technology or programming language. Servlets is a server side technology, okay now. Servlets is a server side technology to prepare web applications, okay now, to prepare web applications. It was designed, okay now, to prepare web applications. It was designed on the basis of, okay now, it was designed on the basis of Java programming language, okay na, basis of Java programming language. Here this is the story about servlets, okay now. I said one point, sir, okay now, by using servlets we can create what? Web applications. And I said another one point, by using JSP also we can create web applications. Say yes or no? By using JSP also we can create web applications, and by using servlets also we can create web applications. Then immediately you may ask one question, sir, by using servlets also we can create, and by using JSP also we can create. Then tell me what is the difference between JSP and servlets? Say yes or no, sir? Okay now. And now observe very clearly here. I am writing one question. What is the difference between? What is the differences between servlet and JSP? Servlets and what, sir? JSPs. Okay now, this is the stuff. Okay, now observe very clearly each and every point we will discuss now. Done. Now observe, sir, here what I am writing. The first point here, if we want to prepare web applications, okay now, if we want to prepare web applications, by using, okay na, if you want to prepare web application by using servlets, okay na, if you want to prepare web applications by using servlet, we must have, okay na, we must have very good knowledge, okay na, we must have very good knowledge, otherwise very good stuff in Java. Okay na, core Java is there now, already we have completed core Java. Say yes or no, sir? Okay na, if we want to prepare web applications by using servlets, we must have good knowledge in what, sir? We must have good knowledge, or we can say we must have good stuff in Java. If you want to prepare web applications in JSPs, okay na, if you want to prepare web applications by using JSPs, even single line of Java, core Java is also not required. Okay na, sir? If you want to prepare web applications in JSP, even single line of Java also not required. Okay na, that also I will write that point also. Here I will write points wise, that will be better. Done. Now observe very clearly here what I am writing. If we want to prepare web applications, okay now, if you want to prepare web applications by using what, sir? by using JSP, then it is not required. Okay, now then it is not required to have any knowledge. Okay, now then it is not required to have any knowledge in Java. Okay, what I am saying, are you able to understand, sir? Response, sir. Done. Now observe very clearly, if you want to prepare web applications by using servlet, we must have very good knowledge in Java. Okay, now if we want to prepare web applications by using JSP, then it is not required to have any knowledge in Java. Okay, now observe very clearly here. I'll write one note point. Okay, now observe, sir, very clearly. The main purpose of JSP technology. JSP is a technology or programming language? Technology only. The main purpose of JSP technology is to reduce the Java code. Okay, now to reduce the Java code. Okay, now the main purpose of JSP technology is to reduce the Java code. As much as possible. Okay, now to reduce the Java code as much as possible in application development. Okay, now we are able to understand why we are using JSP, sir. Okay, now so if you want to prepare web applications by using JSP, no need of Java. Okay, now no need knowledge in Java. Okay, now what is the main purpose of JSP technology? To reduce the tell me, sir, to reduce the Java code as much as possible in what? Application development. Okay, now clear what I am saying here? Okay, now observe very clearly. I'll give you a few more differences. Try to understand here what I am writing. In web applications, we will use servlets. In web applications, we will use servlets at the locations. Okay, now at the locations where we will take requests and where we will process. Okay, now where we will process those requests. Okay, clear what I am saying here? Okay, now observe very clearly. In web applications, we will use servlets at the locations. Okay, now we will servlet at the locations where we will take request and where we will process those requests. That is the story about what, sir? Servlets. Okay, now same concept. Observe very clearly. In web applications, we will use JSP. Okay, now we will use JSP at the locations where we will generate. Okay, now where we will generate dynamic responses. Okay, now where we will generate dynamic responses to the client with very good look. Okay, now with very good look and feel. Okay, now with otherwise very good look. It's okay. Okay, now done. Now observe very clearly here what I am saying. In web applications, why we are using servlets, sir? We will use servlets at the locations where we will take request and where we will process those requests. And in web applications, we will use JSP at the locations where we will generate the dynamic responses. Okay, now where we will generate the dynamic responses to the client with very good look and feel. Okay, now that is the stuff. Next, after that here, observe very clearly here what I am writing. Okay, in web applications, servlets are mainly for processing. Okay, servlets are mainly for what, sir? Processing. In web applications, servlets are mainly for processing the requests. Okay, now processing the request. This is a story about what, sir? Servlets. Okay, now next, coming to the JSPs in web applications. JSPs are mainly for Web application JSPs are mainly for presentation. Okay na, presentation, or we can say response generation. Okay na, response generation. Okay na, this is the story. So tell me, why, what is the main purpose of servlets are here? In servlets are mainly for processing the request, and JSPs mainly for presentation. Say yes or no, sir? Okay na, actually here we have another one concept is there. If you have any idea about MVC applications or Spring MVC is nothing but model view controller. Okay na, model view controller. Here this JSP is nothing but what? Presentation purpose. This JSP is used as a view purpose. Okay na, JSP is used as what, sir? View component, view purpose. Okay na. So here next, after that, here servlets is there. Servlets is for which purpose? Okay, in MVC controller. Okay na, MVC is for what, sir? Controller. Okay na. That is the stuff. Okay, next, after that, here I'll give you another one important point, the last point. Okay, then we'll go to the next concept. Okay na, the differences is important, so that's why I'm giving each and every point. Okay na. Now observe very clearly here. If we perform modifications, okay na, if you perform what, sir? Modifications on an existing, okay na, existing servlet code. Okay na, if you are writing one servlet code, sir, okay na, here I am creating one servlet code. Okay, I have executed that, and that suddenly I have changed some code. Okay, then again we should recompile the code. Okay na, again we have to recompile the servlet code. Okay na, if you perform modifications on an existing code, then it is mandatory. Okay na, then it is mandatory to perform what, sir? Mandatory to perform recompilation. Okay na, recompilation, and or we can say reloading of that servlet, reloading of that servlets into the server, reloading of the servlets into the server. Okay na, clear, sir, what I am saying here? If we perform modifications, okay na, if we perform modifications on an existing servlet code, then it is mandatory to perform recompilation and reloading of that servlets into the server. Then what about JSPs? Tell me, sir, if you perform any modifications in JSP code, what will happen? Tell me. Tell me, sir, if you perform modifications, okay, if you perform modifications on an existing JSP page, okay, now if you perform modification on existing JSP page, then it is not required. Okay, now then it is what, sir? Not required to recompile. Okay, it is not required to recompile and reloading of that JSP pages. Okay, now if we perform modification on an existing JSP page, then it is not required to recompile and reloading that JSP pages into server. Because why? Because JSP pages are auto compiled. Okay, now JSP pages are what, sir? Auto compiled. Okay, now tell me, sir, are you able to understand what is the difference between servlets and JSP? Response, sir. So tell me, at least try to give me 2 to 3 differences. Try to give me 2 to 3 differences about the difference between servlets and JSP. Tell me, sir, first one. Okay, now what is the purpose of servlets here? If we want to prepare servlets, we have must good knowledge in Java, like a core Java. Okay, now if you want to prepare web applications in JSP, no need of Java knowledge. The main purpose of JSP technology is what, sir? To reduce the Java code. Next point, in web applications we will use servlets at the locations where we will take the request, where we will process the request. Next, JSPs, in web applications we will use JSPs at the locations where we will generate the dynamic responses to the client with very good look. Okay, now next question. In web applications, servlets are mainly for processing the request. Okay, now web applications, what is the purpose of servlets purpose? Mainly processing the request. In JSP, presentation, or we can say viewport. Okay, na viewport. Okay, na MVC pages is there na, MVC model view controller. In that MVC JSP is in the part of viewport. Okay na. Next, if you perform modification on existing servlet code, then it is mandatory to perform recompilation and reloading of that server into the server. Okay, now if you perform modification on existing JSP page, it is not required to recompile and reloading the JSP pages into server, because JSP pages are auto compile. Now, there are three components in client server architecture. Okay, now there are in client server architecture there are three components. Okay, now mainly there are three components. What are the three components is nothing but the first one is a client. Okay, now what is the first one here? Client. Next, after the second one is network. Okay, now what is the second one here? Network. Next, after the third one is what, sir? Network server. Very good. Server.